Now available in paperback and Kindle, All About Marilyn. Learn all about the struggles of a faded former teen sitcom star in this absolutely fabulous 5-star screenplay. Get All About Marilyn in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com today. Former Ambercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries has been arrested and charged by the U.S. Attorney's Office for alleged sex trafficking and prostitution of dozens of men.
Now to the arrest tonight of the former CEO of popular retailer Abercrombie and Fitch.
Michael Jeffries is expected to face a judge in a Long Island courtroom this week after he was arrested in Florida today on federal sex trafficking charges. Allie Bauman is here now with the details. Allie.
Well, Maurice and Christine, prosecutors claim the former CEO and other defendants sold aspiring models the dream of success at the price of their sexual compliance. They allegedly made young men sign NDAs and injected them with drugs. The FBI calls this case another example of the wealthy using their power to control the vulnerable. Former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries returns to his Palm Beach, Florida home Tuesday, released from federal custody on $10 million bond. Jeffries, his longtime partner Matthew Smith, and a third man, James Jacobson, were arrested Tuesday on sex trafficking and interstate prostitution charges. Prosecutors allege the men routinely trafficked aspiring male models between 2008 and 2015, while Jeffries was running one of the most popular clothing brands of its time.
The defendants allegedly preyed on the hopes and dreams of their victims by exploiting, abusing, and silencing them to fulfill their own desires.
This 16-count indictment alleges the three defendants recruited and transported dozens of young men to sex parties at Jeffries' home in the Hamptons and hotels around the world, where they provided alcohol, muscle relaxants known as poppers, and Viagra. And when they did not consent, allegedly subjected the young men to invasive and violent sexual contact.
They caused the men to believe that attending these sex events could yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie.
I didn't feel free. I didn't feel like I could say no or that I could just walk away. It felt like I was trapped.
Barrett Paul says he was flown to Jeffries' home in New York after auditioning to be a model for Jacobson.
I thought that I was being given Abercrombie clothes to go into an Abercrombie interview, and it was not the interview I expected, and it was the darkest experience of my life.
There are so many similarities between Epstein, Combs, and now this Abercrombie case.
Former chief of the Brooklyn DA's sex trafficking unit, Lauren Hirsch, is now the director of World Without Exploitation.
For far too long, powerful people have been operating with complete impunity, and I think this is the moment where the tide is changing.
Well, Jeffries left Abercrombie in 2014, and the company declined to comment on the indictment. Attorneys for him and Smith told CBS News New York they will respond to the allegations in court. Now found guilty, the men could face 15 years to life in prison. Maurice and Christine.
Allie, thank you.
Now, according to reports, the U.S. Attorney's Office handed down a 16-count indictment against former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries and two of his associates, his partner Matthew Smith and another man, James Jacobson, in connection with an alleged sex trafficking ring where it's alleged that Mike Jeffries looked to promise young men as young as 19 years old modeling jobs with the Abercrombie and Fitch brand if they went out here and participated in sexual encounters with these men. Now, according to these reports, Mike Jeffries and his associates allegedly took these men to their homes for sexual encounters, and as they took these dozens of men to these different locations, such as the Hamptons in Long Island, hotels in England, and places like Italy, Morocco, and St. Bart's, they allegedly looked to make promises to these aspiring male models that they would be able to get jobs for the Abercrombie and Fitch brand if they allegedly participated in sexual encounters with these men as part of their so-called tryouts for modeling for the Abercrombie and Fitch brand. And as these men participated in these alleged tryouts, these men were basically taken to these locations, and as they were taken to these locations, they were allegedly given drugs such as muscle relaxants known as poppers, and given alcohol, and some were allegedly coerced to participate in these encounters. Moreover, all of these men were allegedly made to sign non-disclosure agreements and agreed to pay damages to Mike Jeffries and his associates if they told their friends and family what went on. And all of this allegedly went on from the period of 2008 to about 2014, when Mike Jeffries wound up leaving the Abercrombie and Fitch brand. And all of this basically was kept under wraps until a BBC documentary came out, basically exposing what happened behind the scenes as related to the alleged sexual abuse of these men and the sexual harassment that these men went through at Abercrombie and Fitch. And after this is where the U.S. Attorney's Office decided to pursue its own investigation into the events that took place over at Abercrombie and Fitch as related to alleged sex trafficking, because if these men were traveling on interstate commerce, as such as planes and trains, and were going into different locations, this basically constituted sex trafficking under the RICO Act, and this is what led to the charges from the U.S. Attorney's Office regarding this alleged sex trafficking. Now, the U.S. Attorney's Office sees the behavior of Mike Jeffries and his associates as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of Mike Jeffrey and his associates' alleged actions, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And if what is presented by the U.S. Attorney's Office is accurate, Mike Jeffries and his associates' behavior definitely fits the pattern and profile of behavior I talk about in the chapter, The Sexual Deviancy of the Beta Male, because everything here as related to this sex trafficking of men basically is all about Mike Jeffries' need for power and control, and about looking to get power and control over these men by looking to go out here and mislead these men into believing that they would actually have modeling careers if they would go out here and participate in these sexual acts with him and his associates. So in the case of this situation, what's happening here with Mike Jeffries is that even though he's made millions of dollars and has had great success with the Abercrombie and Fitch brand, what he wants in this situation is not riches, but what he wants to have is power over men, and what he wants to be is the god over these men in the secret world, because what he wants to do is basically look to subjugate these men by using his power and influence to be able to get these men to do whatever he wanted. So in the case of Mike Jeffries, what he wants to do here in this case as related to his sexual deviancy is, again, what he wants to do is in the secret world be the god over these men, and as the god over these men, what he wants to do is leverage his power over these men, leverage his power over these men by making a promise that he would be one who would give them a modeling job with the Abercrombie and Fitch brand. However, in order to get that job, they have to submit to his authority as a god, not as a boss in a business transaction, because in a business transaction, these men would basically be represented by their agent. They would go to the client's office and they would discuss the business of what shoots they want to do as related to modeling, and a price would be agreed upon, and that price would be agreed upon, and that would be written in a contract, and that contract would basically say what shoots were going to be done and how much they would be paid for them. That's what the business transaction would be. However, what happened with these men, because a lot of them were young and didn't know anything about the business of entertainment, they couldn't see that this was a fishy deal made by a very depraved man. Because in the business of modeling, there are things that will tell you that if a modeling job is legit, one is if you can bring other people to that whole office and that discussion of the business that's going on. Because if a business is transparent, they won't mind you having someone in the room with you as related to you discussing the business of what you're going to model and shoot. And two, you're going to be having a contractual agreement that is perfectly legal and enforceable in court. However, because these men were basically desperate for the being a part of the Abercrombie and Fitch brand, they basically thought if they went along with this agreement, they would possibly get an opportunity at a modeling job. And I know modeling jobs are very hard to get, especially prestigious gigs like Abercrombie and Fitch. And what happened here is that this guy, Mike Jeffries, was using the Abercrombie and Fitch brand as leverage to get control over these male models, and basically using that job as leverage to get them to enter into an illegal agreement where they would be made to sign a contract that was not enforceable by law, because a non-disclosure agreement that tells you that you have to go out here and agree to a criminal act being performed upon you, such as sodomy or sexual abuse, that's not an enforceable agreement. Moreover, this agreement that tells you that you can't talk about these acts being done on you, again, is completely illegal. Unfortunately, these young men didn't understand this, and because they didn't understand it, what happened with these men is that they were thinking they were coerced to come into this agreement, because some feared that they wouldn't be able to get this modeling job that was prestigious, and others feared that they would possibly lose their professional reputation if they didn't go along with this guy who was a part of the storied and acclaimed brand. And this is the leverage that Mike Jeffries used to look to influence and coerce these men. Look to influence and coerce these men as related not to the real world and the business world of modeling, but to the secret world, in order to sate his sexually deviant fetishes, where he was looking not to go out here and have a relationship with these men, but was looking to go out here and use his penis as a weapon. Him and his associates wanted to use their penises as weapons to basically look to break down these men so that they could have power over their bodies and have control over their bodies, to the point where they believed they could go out here and basically subjugate these men as related to breaking their will. That is what that's what Mike Jeffries and his associates wanted to do. Now, some of my viewers say they don't understand what it means to break down a man, but in breaking down a man, this is again looking to force a man to go against his natural will, and again forcing him to believe that he has to do this in order to submit to this man. And again, what these men get pleasure from is not just the sexual act of sodomy, but they also get sexual pleasure from seeing these men wince in pain. They get pleasure from seeing these men basically look to just wince as related to believing that they have to participate in this homosexual act if they are heterosexual, and believe that they have to submit to this act in order to move themselves ahead as related to the modeling world. And this is the secret that this man wants to have in the secret world as related to his pleasure from seeing this man broken down and humiliated, and believes that this will make him a god over this man, because this man basically, again, compromised his integrity, compromised his dignity, compromised his self-respect. And that's what gets these guys the pleasure from these sexual encounters with these men, where they again promised these men modeling jobs, but gave them nothing at all, gave them absolutely nothing at all but a stinging backside and a complete humiliation. Again, this was all about humiliation, just like the alleged humiliation that music mogul Sean P. Diddy Combs put all those women through in their freak-offs. And if we look at Mike Jeffries and his associates as related to their tryouts are just the same thing as the freak-offs. And again, it's all about looking to coerce individuals into doing things against their will, do things against their will because this prominent person basically wants to use their influence and leverage to basically see what they can get this person to do. And that's what makes this cruel and malicious as related to things. Again, looking to again see what they could do to people, as according to reports, they said that they gave these men poppers and props such as large dildos and high-pressured enemas. Again, this was about seeing these men basically suffer and get pleasure from seeing these men suffer, seeing a man suffer, because what they wanted to do, again, was break this man's spirit, break this man's will, break this man's body, and break this man, and again, be able to say that they could do this in secret and have this power over this man as he enters the world of modeling. And as he enters the world of modeling, he is sitting there having to deal with the fact that he participated in a, again, sexual act where he was basically humiliated and has to live with that all his life. This is the secret that Mike Jeffries and his associates would share with the dozens of men that they humiliated in these tryouts. And again, this is no different than what Sean P. Diddy Combs did in his alleged freak-offs, where Sean P. Diddy Combs went out here and did this to women as related to having them involve themselves with male prostitutes, have them involve themselves with these male prostitutes, and basically, again, looking to, again, exchange these sexual favors in exchange for money. And again, this is what makes it these sex crimes beat the statutes for federal crimes, because these men were basically flown from different places to participate in these sex acts. But what's really disturbing here as related to the case of Mike Jeffries and his associates is we clearly see that there is a difference between black and white. I mean, in the case of 80-year-old Mike Jeffries and his elderly associates, they are free on bail after the U.S. Attorney's Office came to an agreement. He got a $10 million bond, and that just shows us the white privilege that Mike Jeffries and associates had as related to this whole, just again, disturbing series of events. Meanwhile, Sean P. Diddy Combs, the black man, is currently still residing in a U.S. federal jail as related to his crime. But as I see it, both of these men, again, both need to belong inside of those federal jails until they wind up in prison, because the criminal behavior that both of these men have participated in really just showed you the depraved indifference many of these sexual predators have. And again, they have depraved indifference to human life, because for them, the men that they violated, or the women, in the case of P. Diddy Combs, violated, they didn't see them as people. I go in depth on this in The Man Crisis. No, what they saw was a person who they thought was less than them, thought they could just go out here and objectify, and again, saw a person that they felt that they could go out here and break down and humiliate. That's what the Ambercrombie and Fitch CEO was doing. Again, for him, his whole process was similar to what they call the buck breaking process. Again, looking to break a man, and did this again, promising these men these jobs, promising them modeling jobs, similar to what is done on the online site, the Backroom Casting Couch. And as these men participated in their casting couch with these tryouts and participated in their version of the Backroom Casting Couch, they basically created a system of, again, breaking these men, again, promising them modeling jobs, but giving them absolutely nothing at all. because what they were looking to take was these men's dignity, take these men's self-respect, and hopefully if these men wind up getting convicted, they will learn that they will reap what they sow, greater than what they sow, later than what they sow, as they run into the authority of the CEOs and have to deal with the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, as they basically wind up trading them for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand apple juice, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand ginger snaps, Hunt's snack pack puddings, Kit Kat candy bars, Hershey's chocolate bars, Heath toffee bars, hot and sour pickles, beef sausages. I mean, as these guys basically learn how they get tried out by Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and get stuffed with big beef sausages, they will be and get spit roasted. They will basically learn how these male models felt as they basically wind up getting stuffed with those sausages. And then once Mr. Sprinkles comes in and sprays the backside with his special tangy sauce on the front side and the backside, and splits the cheeks open and shows everybody on Cell Block D these dudes' backsides looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake, that's when these men will basically reap what they sowed, later than what they sowed, greater than what they sowed, and basically suffer the humiliation they put these aspiring male models into, and learn the hard lesson again about participating in this type of evil. And again, this has nothing to do with homosexuality. This is just evil sexual deviancy. And again, a form of sexual deviancy I'm seeing as an emerging pattern among those, especially among the wealthy like Sean P. Diddy Combs and this guy Mike Jeffries. Again, for these men, they've basically had so many sexual encounters that they no longer get pleasure from sharing love with another person. And because they no longer can love another person, what they do is express their contempt for humanity, by using their penis as a weapon, to break men down and break, in the case of P. Diddy Combs, women down, or use other men's penises as weapons to break people down. And that's what makes these guys, again, sexual deviants, is that their quest to have power over people and look to destroy people because they see themselves as a god. They see themselves as a god, but sadly, no, they really are monsters. These are really monsters that are running around in our society and really show us the depravity of those who participate in sexual deviancy. And what's really scary about these men is that this is only one step away from being a serial killer, because usually when it comes down to these types of sexual deviants, once they've gone out here and see that they can go out here and humiliate a person, they don't just stop there. No, they eventually wind up escalating their behavior, looking to get pleasure, to get more power and control over a person's life, because it goes beyond them just getting pleasure from seeing a man winding up wincing or a man winding up suffering, and as related to them getting their pleasure. No, their greatest pleasure eventually winds up with them looking to take a man's life and see the life leave their eyes. And that's what's really scary about these individuals, because a lot of these guys who participate in this sexual deviancy, again, they become more and more indifferent and more depraved as they participate in their deviant sexual acts. And that's what makes these guys some of the most scary individuals as related to the entire situation, as related to all of the men in crisis. But when it comes to these types of men who participate in these sex crimes as related to this behavior, these are some of the most scary men in the man crisis. And what's really scary here is we're starting to see an increase in frequency in these kind of sex crimes. That's what's really scary here. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg as related to those in the entertainment industry and the deviant acts that some of them participate in. And this whole incident should basically make us all think twice about entering the entertainment industry, because it's not a business that's basically run by men looking to take care of business these days. No, it's run by really depraved men in crisis, and they can basically turn a person who aspires to be a model into somebody who winds up a broken figure. Again, a broken figure as related to their modeling system, and that's what makes it really scary about the whole world of modeling, is that it's not run by men, but run by men in crisis who create a crisis among those who want to work in these industries. Now, if you want to learn more about how to identify the behavior of predatory men like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn how to identify workplace predators and be able to learn how to deal with workplace predators on the job, and like in the case of these male models, what they needed to learn was to just basically walk out the door when a man makes a proposal like this that's illegal and indecent. You can pick up my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find the Stop Simping in the Workplace at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos about the man's crisis or men's issues, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. Now, this video will not be monetized because YouTube will not possibly monetize it due to the content, so I'm asking everybody to drop a donation to the Cash App so I can continue making videos about the man crisis. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.